The Feast of Passover. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye eat unleavened bread. In the first day ye shall have an holy convocation, ye shall do no servile work therein. Leviticus 23 verse 4-8. And the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal, and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plains of Jericho. Josh 5:10. Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper the very night that, for 1500 years, Israel had observed the Passover feast, the memorial of their deliverance from Egypt. The Lord's Supper on the Passover night depicts our Savior's sacrifice, a memorial to us of deliverance from the bondage of sin. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. And he said unto them, With desire have desired to eat this Passover with you, before I suffer. And he took bread, and gave thanks, and brake it, and gave unto them, saying, This is my body which is given for you, this do in remembrance of me. Likewise also the cup after supper, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you. Luke 22:1, 15, 19, 20. The ordinance of the Lord's Supper was instituted as a memorial, of the same event of which the Passover had been a type. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us, therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. 1 Corinthians 5, 7, 8. But bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem, but I will return again unto you, if God will. And he sailed from Ephesus. Acts 18:21. And we sailed away from Philippi, after the days of unleavened bread, and came unto them to Troas in 5 days, where we abode 7 days. Acts 20 verse 6. At Philippi, Paul tarried to keep the Passover. Only Luke remained with him, the other members of the company passing on to Troas to await him there. The Philippians were the most loving and true-hearted of the apostles' converts, and during the 8 days of the feast he enjoyed peaceful and happy communion with them. Here we see that Paul not only kept the seventh-day Sabbath feast, but also the Passover. We find that he observed all the other feasts as well. He kept all the law. Therefore, inspiration demands that God's elect restore this all-important and fundamental teachings, which God's church lost, when the man of sin substituted pagan feasts in place of the true. Passover represents the executive judgment, separation of sin and sinners in modern Israel, according to the type of the cross and the exodus from Egypt. Also, the Passover season represents the beginning of the literal and spiritual harvest, beginning with the day of the wave sheaf offering, during the week of Passover, the first gathering of the barley grain, gathering a representative handful of grain, to be offered by the high priest, according to the biblical instruction and typology. Second Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The significance of the second Passover observance each year is taking on an increasing role in the Passover season gatherings in the branch, emphasizing the co-ministration of the Holy Ghost, Divine Daughter, in the earth, as the other Comforter. Second Passover is held exactly 1 month after first Passover, at the end of the 14th day of the second Hebrew month, typically in May. Every year, 50 days after the day of the wave sheaf offering during Passover week, counted from the day after the 7th day Sabbath in the Passover week, the day of Pentecost is celebrated. The Gospel Pentecost is always celebrated on the first day of the week each year per the Gospel account in Acts chapter 2. It is a one-day event, sundown to sundown, usually at the beginning of June or near the end of May, each year.